Apparently, not everyone learned their lesson from Fire Festival, because we've got the new Spanish Netflix drama, Welcome to Eden. It's a mysterious, dramatic, and angsty beach party. But is it enjoyable? Are you happy? With this question, Zoa and four young, attractive, and social media active boys and girls are invited to the most exclusive party in history, set on a secret island and organized by the brand of a new energy drink. What starts as an exciting adventure will soon turn into the trip of their lives, but paradise is not always what it seems. The main protagonist of this Spanish series is Zoa, a young woman who gets a cryptic invite to a party of a lifetime. She accepts, along with a busload of others, and they travel to this remote island where a massive party awaits them. A few of the invitees are selected to try the new Blue Eden energy drink, and as we fast forward into the morning after the massive party, Zoa and four others who arrived are the only ones from the invitees left on the island. Well, I guess they're not alone. I mean, they're there with a huge group of people who are already a part of Eden, this tropical paradise commune type of collective where a charismatic woman and her husband run it all. Now, the residents, for lack of a better term, they all wear similar outfits, sort of like uniforms, and they all take part in jobs around the island. Now, Eden is self-sufficient, providing what the residents need for sustenance. And there are several conversations around this topic spread out throughout the episodes, trying to convince us that the efforts being made on this island are for the good of humanity, even though we don't know how or why. But this place isn't without technology or even internet service, and a large portion of how the island functions actually relies on tech, which then the series exploits it for its storytelling devices. Now, in one instance, a surveillance drone provides a lot of the visuals, but it's not overused to a degree that it gets annoying. Now, as the series slowly reveals story elements, we learn that the partygoers were chosen for specific reasons, all under the guise of helping them. And the story takes a large portion of the narrative to just show us interactions between the players so that we hopefully get invested in them and then care about their outcomes. I think this worked to varying degrees. While we don't actually get a ton of development from backstory, we do get to see how people think and behave, which then certainly helps to form opinions about them. There's a ton of angst present in this, but it's almost unavoidable due to having a large amount of young people isolated on an island. Tensions will rise and emotions will flare, especially as the characters fall in lust with one another, only to discover someone new that they may want to try. We also get a fair amount of brooding from many of the characters. And for a place called Eden, there seems to be an inordinate amount of people that have at least a mild feeling of unhappiness to them, despite putting on the facade of being happy and content. But the show also balances those out with characters that are genuinely happy to be on the island and away from the world. And those differences in viewpoints also work to cause conflict between the characters. The show put an air of mystery around the island and the situation almost from the very beginning, but it takes forever for it to really unveil anything. And we don't need to have all of the answers up front, but I think for this to be more compelling, or at least to make the time spent feel worth it, there needs to be more forward progress spread throughout the episodes. There's a lot of suspense and tension, but most of it is contrived and then over-dramatized to play out the drama for the 8 episodes. And really, this could have been cut way down, because so much of what happens is really just posturing and it's inconsequential, not actually leading anywhere. And the episodes range from 36 to 46 minutes, but they all feel much longer than that. And I'm not sure the series actually knows what it wants to be. There's an environmental angle, certainly the YA drama angle, but there's also this cult-like aspect or some sort of secret society, and then, oddly, a mild sci-fi twist. Now, because Zoa and the other 4 are still on the island, there are people back home that have noticed that they've not returned. So we get an exterior angle of the mystery as people on the outside work to figure out where these kids went and why. And while some of this is mildly interesting, one aspect becomes very predictable, which then removes tension for the finale because we already know what a certain character conflict will be and what the decision that they're going to have to face. I think the show means to keep that more hidden, but it's extremely obvious almost from the very start. Something the show introduces well, but doesn't always execute effectively, is the deceit, manipulation, and gaslighting of the residents of Eden. The attempt and motivations are clear, but sometimes the dialogue in executing these tactics just doesn't come across as genuine. And I got the sense very early on that there's some sort of huge conspiracy brewing, but it's all shrouded in vagueness. Once we get to the final couple of episodes, though, in the season, several reveals are made, and I found them to be pretty intriguing. But I'm not sure I'm invested enough in it all just to care about where the show is ultimately headed. And the season ends on a cliffhanger, and it's opened the door for some major questions, but it's still lacking a bit in actually hooking me so that I feel compelled to make the next season a priority. Now, I know I've listed a ton of negatives to this series, but there are some positives too. The locations are beautiful, and the cinematography captures it wonderfully. Now, I wouldn't call it cinematic, but for a show, it looks good. And as angsty as the characters are, the actors do a great job of capturing all that angst. I mean, it's a young adult soap opera, and they nail the big drama moments. There are even a few characters that are sympathetic that I found myself rooting for. But then there are also some that I just wanted to fall off a cliff because their brooding and sulking was just getting to be too much. Now, I like that there's a mild inclusion of Charon from Greek mythology in the story as well. Now, this provides a couple of engaging story devices through the imagery, but I'm not sure that the mythology influences a large enough part for how the show intends. Maybe there will be more prominent inclusion in another season, or maybe it was just a little nod that the show wanted to include and it's not going to address it any further. So overall, Welcome to Eden is an angsty drama that draws out the episodes unnecessarily in an effort to create mystery and suspense. And while those are present, most of the narrative is spent watching characters brood and posture over their situation rather than achieving forward momentum. The acting is convincing with some characters that are charismatic and sympathetic, who also get to play up the melodrama that's inherent to the narrative. The locations are beautifully captured, but beauty alone is not enough to negate the lack of forward momentum through many of the episodes. I like what the show was trying to accomplish, and I was mildly engaged, but at the end, it's not something that I'm absolutely chomping at the bit to revisit. There's sex, a little bit of nudity, a lot of profanity, and some brutal violence. I give Welcome to Eden 2.5 out of 5 couches. So what are you currently binging? I'm behind in what I had planned to cover, but I'd love to hear what's on your list in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.